Well, hello, everyone. What a difference a few days can make in a competitive federal election like the one we have underway right now. Joining me is Andrew Enns, Executive Vice President with Leger. Here to talk to us about a national poll for Post Media conducted over the long weekend. So welcome back, Andrew.
Good to be back, Harold.
So when we checked in with you last week, the Conservatives seem to have momentum. What do the latest numbers tell you?
Well, the latest numbers are showing that the conservative momentum that we talked about last week has paused. They're sitting in our recent Leger poll, sitting at 33%, which is actually down a point from where we had them last week. And what we see is the Liberals have picked up some steam, and they picked up 3 points over the past week, and now they're sitting at 33%. So what we effectively have is a neck and neck race.
Wow, that 3 points for the Liberals, is it clear where those votes are coming from?
Well, what I can see in our polling is that they've made up some ground with amongst female voters, and I suspect that may have something to do with an issue that broke kind of the latter part of last week and into the weekend on gun control. And I would say as well, the Liberals look like they've picked up a little bit of strength in Atlantic Canada, which they had dropped a bit in the past couple of weeks, as well as in Ontario, which is obviously an important battleground.
Right.
And, I suspect, Harold, as well, I think they may have been picking up a bit of vote from the NDP. The NDP dropped in our poll from last week. They're down a couple of points. And that could be some of those, NDP voters that may have strayed in the early part of the campaign, and maybe the Liberals are starting to get a bit of that back.
You talked about different regions, and I'm going from east to west. I see in your poll that the Liberals are out front in Atlantic Canada and Quebec, and the Tories own the prairies. The Liberals and the Tories are in a virtual tie in Ontario, as you're saying, and it's still pretty much a three-way race here in BC, I guess, between the Liberals and the Tories, the NDP. So when you look across the country at these regional differences, how might they play in the campaign as we head into this last 10 days?
Well, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see the leaders' tours very much start to focus in on those key battlegrounds where they think they can, well, one, importantly, where they think they have some seats they could pick up, from the other parties. But you'll also see some parties starting to potentially adjust tour to reflect where they feel they may be vulnerable and potentially have some seats at risk, and they'll want to shore up some things. I see for the Liberals, I see them focusing a great deal of their energy and Mr. Trudeau's time. I would say likely in Quebec, in Ontario, and British Columbia, specifically in BC, the Lower Mainland. I think they feel they're, Lower Mainland and including Vancouver, they feel they probably see opportunity and risk in those in a couple of those regions, and so Mr. Trudeau will want to spend some time there, shoring up and hopefully turning a few seats. I'd say Aaron O'Toole and the Conservatives are going to spend a great deal of time in Ontario, in that 905 Southwest Ontario part of that province. As well as I suggest in British Columbia, again, largely in that Lower Mainland area where they'll feel that their numbers being so competitive will, and they've got, they have 17 seats in the province, and they'll want to make sure they hold all of that and maybe add a couple. I suspect they'll also head into Atlantic Canada and Quebec for a couple of short visits, short forays into there with their tour. Because I think they see a bit of an opportunity given their polling numbers in those regions, that they think there may be a few more seats for them. And Mr. Singh, look, I sound like a stuck record here, but he'll spend a lot of time in Ontario in that 905, as well as in Ontario, in British Columbia, in the Lower Mainland, and also on the island. There's a green seat on the island that they'll be after, in that Nanaimo. Ladysmith, and so I think you'll see him go back and forth there a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the NDP tour take a little stop in Edmonton. They've got a seat up in Alberta, and they may, given the given the situation in Alberta with the unpopularity of Premier Kenney and the popularity of Rachel Notley, it makes sense maybe there might be another one for the taking up in Edmonton.
Speaking of the NDP, they remain the overwhelming second choice for Liberal voters and the few Green voters that there are right now, according to this poll. Is there an opportunity there for the NDP and what would they have to do to convert those second choices into first choices?
Well, you nailed it there, Harold, in the sense that they certainly have the opportunity to grow vote from the Liberals and the Green. Certainly, the Green 50% plus of the Green supporters would support the NDP, and a large number of Green voters actually say they might actually switch their vote. So that's good news. But as you say, it's a limited pool that they're going to draw from. The Liberals, again, there is some opportunity for the NDP, but you have to appreciate that part of Justin Trudeau's messaging is going to be ramping up the message of vote for Liberal. We're the only party that can stop Aaron O'Toole and the Conservatives. The NDP can't stop Aaron O'Toole's effectively as Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, and that'll be their message. And so, that'll be what the NDP will have to contend with if they're going to try to pry away a few more voters from the Liberals.
Is any party's vote more solid than others at this point?
Well, I would say the Conservative vote right now is the most solid. They have the least number of current supporters who are saying that they would be likely to support a second choice, and they actually have the largest number of supporters who say they don't have a second choice. So their vote is pretty solid. It's the challenge for them is they're just not as an attractive option, as that second choice. I mean, for them, an interesting dynamic is in Quebec. They're a fairly attractive second choice for the Bloc Québécois. So if we see some breakdown of that Bloc Québécois vote in the latter days of the campaign, you might see some movement in Quebec potentially. But it's that's really the only place where we might see some significant growth from another party for the Conservatives.
Okay. Well, we have a leaders debate, English language leaders debate on Thursday night, and about half of people in your poll say they'll be watching, along with us. I would expect. What should we all be watching for, based on what you're seeing in the polls? What kinds of issues are the leaders going to be looking to hit?
Well, I think for Aaron O'Toole, going into this, he still has to really look at these debates as opportunity. He needs to keep introducing himself to Canadians, and this is an opportunity, as you say, to get to a little better than 50% potentially. He has to be, I would say, fairly ambitious in the sense of presenting his platform and his plans, providing detail. He needs to be wary of some traps and some landmines that I would suspect Liberal leader Justin Trudeau will want to be laying out for him, and to try to undermine his credibility in certain points of his platform. We saw that with the gun control, assault weapons, bit of controversy around that issue, and Mr. O'Toole will want to avoid those. He needs to present himself as being prime ministerial at the end of these two debates, and he'll be happy with that. As I said, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau will be looking to take down Aaron O'Toole a notch or two. He will be trying to try to poke more holes in that platform, to try to raise questions about the what's true and what's not true about the platform, because doing so, if he does that a few times, he can start to raise the old specter of, the Tory hidden agenda. Tories say one thing campaigning, another thing when governing. And that could be dangerous for Aaron O'Toole in terms of it. He's obviously built some new ballot support, but it won't be as solid, and they might be susceptible to that kind of attack if Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is successful. And finally, I'd say, Jagmeet Singh, he's had a good campaign to date. He is presenting himself as a strong progressive option for those voters who, have found some, are concerned about the Green Party in terms of their troubles of late. And, he's realizing that there's progressive voters who voted for Justin Trudeau perhaps the last two elections and are not as inclined to do so. So he really, I think, will want to take on Mr. Trudeau and burnish his progressive credentials. And he'll also want to present as a credible, forceful, opposition to Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives in order to fend off that other message we talked about earlier, where Justin Trudeau will be appealing to progressive voters as the only way to hold back conservative government is by voting for the Liberals. So they all three leaders certainly have some work to do, some goals going in, and as you say, we may chat after to see how they did.
Yeah, let's regroup on Friday after the debate, and
Sure.
That'll be great. See what you think. See if they hit the messages that you expected based on the polling, and I guess look ahead to what will then be basically the final week of the campaign, and what they need to do. I guess we'll see some polling again next week that hopefully will some BC polling that will give us an even clearer picture of whether that momentum, as you say, was paused for the Conservative or completely stalled out, and whether the Liberals are continuing to grow. So lots at stake here over the next few days.
No, for sure. And yeah, the BC numbers will be good to look at to understand the regional breaks. I was talking to somebody today, and I likened this week in the campaign as a third round in a golf tournament. You can't win the tournament in the third round, but you either play yourself in contention or you play yourself out of contention. And I think that's what we're going to look to see at the beginning of next week. Is everybody still, who's in contention, who maybe is fallen back, and we'll fasten our seatbelts for a run to the September 20th.
Well, good analogy. Yeah, it's like moving day, as they say.
As they say.
So here we go. Okay. Well, thanks as always, Andrew. Look forward to our next chat.
Terrific. Thank you, Harold. Bye-bye.